Now we're going to add some shading to our drawings, our chairs, just to make them even make them look more three-dimensional and lift them from the page. And we're also going to try some presentation techniques first as well. First thing you need to do though is to just rub out your pencil line. First technique we're going to try is just do some very simple outlining. We're just going to do that on some of our simpler shapes. So just pick a shape, and the outlining is very quick, quite rough, just following with your fine liner, just following the direction of the line of the shape, very roughly and very quickly, just going around that, and it really lifts the shape from the page. And it's called outlining because we only go around the outside of the shape. We're not going to touch any of the lines that are inside the shape. I'll just try that again. Again, around the outline of the shape, so this time I'm going to go around the feet of the chair, the legs of the chair. I'm going to go through the leg, I'm going to go around it, very roughly, following the direction of the line. You can see it's quite rough, the lines kind of cross over at the corners, very rough, very quick. And there we have it. So that's one presentation technique, just to lift your drawings from the page. You're not using any colour yet at all. The second one we're going to try is thick and thin lines. So this is a little bit more, if you like, neater than the outlining. So what I'm going to do is going to go same principle. We're going to go around the outside of the edge, the outside edge of the shape. And the rule is for thick and thin lines is where we have a line, if on one side of the line there is a surface, so we could call this a surface here, it's a face of the object, but there isn't a face the other side, then that's thick. So with this line here, there's a face on the right hand side, there's nothing on the left because it goes behind the chair here, so that's a thick line. So what I'm going to just do is just going to thicken that line up with my fine liner. This line, on the other hand, if we go to the right of it, there's a face, and if we go to the left of it, there's a face. So attached to that line, if you like, there are two faces. So that stays thin. So I'm not going to touch that line. This line, however, is thick. This one is thick as well. Face one side, nothing the other side. The general rule is around the outside of the object, or in this case the chair, there's a thick line. So I'm going to go around the shape, around the outside of the shape, just going to thicken the line up a little bit. Now here we can see the leg. This part of the line here, which I'm just pointing at with my pen, we actually make that thick because if we go to the left hand side of it, or above it in this case, there's a face, but if we go below that, there is no face. This face here of the leg is not directly in contact with that line because it's the underneath of the chair there, so that part of the line becomes thick. But this part of the line stays thin because there's a face there and a face there. Even though it's the face of the leg, that goes thick. So we go around the leg here. Hope that makes sense. And then thicken that line up as well. And again, the same thing happens on the back leg here. That becomes thick there as well. So you see what it does, like the outlining, it really lifts the object from the page. Let's just check our lines. All the inside lines, look, 1, 2 faces, 1, 2 faces, this line, 1, 2 faces, and so on. We'll have a go on another shape. This time we're going to do this box shape down here. So pretty much all the way around is thick. And you want to make sure you want to make sure that you can tell the difference between the thick and the thin lines. So, don't make your lines too thick. If you use my drawing as a guide, it should be okay. There we go. So thicken the outside lines up. Let's go inside. Just draw those lines in, which I forgot earlier. Okay, so this line, face either side, so that stays thin. This line, face either side, so that stays thin. This one, though, this line here, face this side. Now there's nothing this side because there's a kind of gap or a hole, so that line becomes thick. The same goes for this line here, because we can see there's a face attached to it, and then it drops behind it. We can't see that face. Imagine obviously this is a 3D object. This line, however, two faces. This line, two faces. This line, two faces, and so on. There we go. The technique is called drop shadow, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the shape of our object, and we're just going to, if you imagine, we're going to move it down, and in this case down and to the left slightly, or to the right slightly. So let me just show you what I mean by that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line out of the bottom of this shape. We do with this shape here, and then so this line would be this one, and then I draw a line down, and then I'm going to go across, and then I'm going to go up, and this line ends in a parallel line to this one, so these lines of the shadow, or the drop shadow, are parallel. So basically imagine that the shape, our chair in this case, shape has moved down and to the right slightly, and then I'm going to ink that in. Like so. Now the drop shadow, I advise you use that with maybe the more simpler shapes. Can be a little bit difficult when we get to draw chairs with legs, so this shape here would be fine, maybe this one and this one. And there you go, it's the drop shadow. You can actually use that in conjunction with, or along with, particularly thick and thin lines. Maybe not the outlining. Thick and thin lines definitely. The drawings really stand out then from the page. So choose some presentation techniques. Want to see some outlining, want to see some thick and thin lines, and some drop shadow on the rest of your drawings. So when you finish the page, it should look something like this. Just a quick word on the different techniques. You should have some outlining on your page. You should have some thick and thin lines, and you should also have some drop shadows. The drop shadow, you can actually change the direction of the drop shadow so that it's on the kind of left-hand side of the block. It just works in the same way. You follow the lines, the parallel lines, like so. Gives you the same effect. So you should have a variety of presentation techniques on your page. The next thing we're going to do is have a go at shading those shapes in, or those chairs in, to make them look a bit more three-dimensional.